Top of the morning to you. Yikes. If the Irish people weren't already upset that I was talking about leprechauns, they're going to be even more mad when they hear that accent. Hello, Champagne Nightmares. Welcome back to my channel, or if you're new here, welcome. I don't know how you found me, but I hope you'll stick around, hit that subscribe button down below. Become part of the family. My name is Janessa, and I am North Dakota's trash queen of glam, geek, and gore. And for this video, to celebrate St. Patrick's Day, I am diving into one of the favorite horror movies of one of my dear friends. I watched this when it came out. I have not seen it since until I watched it for this video. Let's talk about Leprechaun. All right, so we are going to talk about Leprechaun, and I have never really gotten into the Leprechaun series. Like I said, I watched the first one when it came out. I have never seen any of the other ones, but my friend Jaye, who is my dear, dear friend Brooklyn, who takes a lot of my photos, her boyfriend Jerry, this is his favorite horror movie ever. He absolutely adores it. He's such a fan. And so I was like, you know what? Let's talk about Leprechaun. I love tying in horror videos to different holidays, so I figured this was the year. For St. Patrick's Day, let's talk about Leprechaun. So Jerry is part of a band called Truck Stop. You can follow them on Instagram and all of the social media platforms. I'll link their social media stuff below, so you can check them out. If you like metal, you will absolutely love them. I'm not even really a metal fan, and I sometimes like some of their stuff. I think it's kind of fun. They do some fun covers at shows, so if you are in the sort of like West Virginia, Ohio kind of area, they play there, I think, fairly often, and they also travel around to different locations.
Well, I've read the good book, I've even taken up stakes, been chugging only water, shoving up stakes. At night I hear them whisper in my ear, demonic incantations, death's engineer.
I love Ireland. I had a chance to go to Ireland on a work trip. I was only there for a week, and I scheduled myself one extra day to kind of roam around the countryside a little bit. I went to this little fishing village. It was gorgeous. I absolutely adored it, and I would love to go back to Ireland when I have more free time. One of my favorite things is that one of the women that I worked with, she worked in the building, and she worked with some of like the facilities and setup and events and stuff like that. And I was in the training room. The associates that I was training were off doing an exercise, so I was catching up and doing my lesson plans and all of that. And she came in with a couple of other people from the site who were doing some changes. The room was being renovated a little bit and was being moved around. And one of the other people, I don't think they realized I was in the room, and one of the people asked her if she was going to this dinner event that was happening. I don't think it was a work thing, but it was like somebody that they knew from work, and it sounded like nobody was looking forward to it. And so the one person asked her if she was going, and she goes, I'd rather shit in my hands and clap. And that, with that accent, was the funniest thing I have ever heard in my life. And I started laughing, and then they realized I was there, and they're like, oh, we're so sorry. And I was like, don't be. I was like, that has made my entire trip, that one moment. So if she's out there, I hope she is still just as sassy as ever, because that was phenomenal and I loved it. But I have some thoughts about Leprechaun. I picked up a few little leprechaun-y souvenirs when I was in Ireland. My little eyeliner lip liner mug is one of my little souvenirs. But this leprechaun is not guarding his Lucky Charms. He is much less friendly. So the movie starts with this guy, Daniel O'Grady, who shows up at his farm, which we'll find out a little bit later is in North Dakota. But they never say the name of the town, and the geography around the house is mountains. So if you've ever been to North Dakota, you know that that's cap right away. There are no mountains. But they're at this little farmhouse, and he shows up in a limo. And his wife is like, Daniel O'Grady, what are you doing? We don't have any money. We don't have any money for this. And she says that his mother's urn has arrived. So his mother died. Apparently he went back to Ireland to go to this funeral for his mother. And he's looking for the urn, and she tells him where it is because apparently he stole a bag of gold from a leprechaun and hid it in his mother's urn. We're already making very poor choices for a horror movie. I don't know why we would disrespect the dead in this way, but here we are. So he unpacks it, and then a little bit later, he's gone off to do something, and she hears a child's voice. And she's like, what the fuck is going on? I'm an old lady. There shouldn't be children in my house. And it's the leprechaun. And he comes jumping out of Daniel's suitcase, and he pushes her down the basement and then kills her. So she's dead. Daniel comes back, and he's trying to figure out what's going on. He gets lured to the basement, and the leprechaun is taunting him, but then also trying to shine his shoes. So that's going to be a running thing that apparently this particular leprechaun, I guess leprechauns all have trades. So he is like a shoemaker or a cobbler, a peach cobbler. I don't fucking know what it is, but he is really interested in shoes. So he gets distracted by shoes, and he's going to clean them, and then he's going to kill the guy. And then Daniel somehow traps him in a crate by threatening him with a 4-leaf clover. Foreshadowing. And so he lures him into the crate and puts the 4-leaf clover on top of the crate so the leprechaun can't get out. And he's pouring gasoline all around the basement, and he drags his wife's body upstairs, and he's going to light a match, and he's going to set the house on fire. And then he seemingly dies of a heart attack. He starts like clutching his chest, and he dies of a heart attack, we think. Put a pin in that one. So then we flash to 10 years later, and Jennifer Aniston is driving through the mountains of North Dakota in a red Jeep with her father to the worst copyright-free song I have ever heard in my life. It seems to be called I Need a 4-Leaf Clover. Yep, it really is that bad. It really is. And so she's kind of set up to be the spoiled little rich girl. And her dad is talking to her about how they're making this new start here in North Dakota. Again, no town name, anything. Just we're in North Dakota in the mountains like you do. They get into the house, and apparently it has never been lived in since the O'Grady's died. And so it's all cobwebby and dusty and gross. And there's just a random tarantula, also not native to North Dakota. So why there is just this random tarantula crawling around the basement in North Dakota, your guess is as good as mine. But so they start trying to clean up, and Jennifer Aniston is having a little rich girl tantrum, and she's saying she's going to go stay at a hotel in town. Now, if you've looked around the farmyard, if you looked at the scene, I don't imagine any accommodations in alleged North Dakota town would be any better than this farmhouse, but maybe there would be less tarantulas. So she's going to do it, but then all of a sudden, this hot boy shows up. Ken Olant, who plays Nathan, not the sexiest name in the world, except maybe Nathan Fillion. I could maybe give you a little bit there, but he shows up. Now, he will be familiar to horror viewers. He did some NBC TV. He was in the series Rags to Riches. He was in the TV movie Summer School, if you remember those, like, great TV movies. There was one about the prom. There was one about summer school. They had Jaye Harry. They had Edie McClurg. And they had Ken Olant. And he is probably best known to viewers of this channel as having been one of the leads in April Fool's Day. I love that movie. Check out my video here if you haven't seen it. So he's the beefcake for this, and he's immediately attracted to Jennifer Aniston, whose name in the film, this is like from 1993, and you can tell because her name is Tori, and obviously Tori Spelling and 90210. I think there's maybe some influence there. So she is Tori. She's the little rich girl with her like early edition mobile phone. This was way before cell phones, and she had like this big clunky mobile that she carried around. And I think it was a different phone in different scenes. I noticed that the phone looked very different from scene to scene, so I think they were just kind of throwing in a prop and hoping nobody would notice. So it's not very clear why they're there, but apparently Nathan and then his two friends, Ozzy and Alex, are there to paint the house. It wasn't really explained because I was like, why is he just all of a sudden here? And then all of a sudden there were these two other characters. Ozzy is an adult who clearly has some sort of developmental disabilities. It's not as sensitive. I mean, obviously this was done in 1993, so it's a little bit kind of sketchy how they portrayed him, but it was actually a little bit sweeter than I thought it would be. I thought we were going to get the R slur like thrown around all the time because it was the 90s. They didn't really do a lot of that. And there was some sweet moments with him and Alex. Alex is, I think, his younger brother. He's a child and he's kind of completing the group. So we've got some teenagers, we've got a couple adults, and then we've got this younger kid. So we've got a real mix of ages. So Ozzy, who again is someone who has some disabilities, and he's known for kind of painting colorful stories. So he mentions something to Alex about seeing a UFO, and Alex says, no more lying. We don't believe you. Do we think that's going to come up later? Obviously. Who's going to see the leprechaun first? Probably Ozzy. I would bet money on it. So Nathan and Tori are working down in the basement, and Tori spills on the crate that's got the leprechaun, and they're going to open it, but then Nathan spills all over himself, so he's got to go clean up, but now the leprechaun is awake. So the leprechaun is awake, and whatever has happened in the 10 years, apparently that 4-leaf clover has disintegrated, and he's able to get free. And how does he get free? You guessed it. He lures Ozzy down to the basement to loosen the nails on the crate so that he can get out. And then Ozzy sees him, and then he runs and tells everybody that there was a leprechaun that came out of the crate. They don't believe him because he tells tall tales, and then they go look in the basement and they find a rat. And they're like, oh, that must be it. And I'm like, yeah. Has he never seen a rat before? Why would he confuse a rat with a leprechaun? I get that you're like thinking that he's lying or whatever, but usually if you think he's just making up stories, he's just making up stories. But why would you try to be like, oh, it's probably just that. It's probably a rat. Jesus. So Ozzy and Alex are in the yard and they see a rainbow. Now, I've been gay a long time, and I know what a rainbow looks like. This was red, blue, and green, kind of like an old TV set. Delete it, old. But it's just red, blue, and green, and it leads them to this car, and they find a coin, and when Alex picks up the coin, then a whole bag appears. And so Ozzy's looking at the coin, and Alex is looking in the bag, and he sees that there's all these gold coins. There's like 99 coins, and a bitch ain't one. And so Ozzy is playing with the other one, and something startles him or something, and he swallows the coin. I wonder if that's going to come up later. So Alex says that they need to hide the gold because he wants to use the gold to get Ozzy an operation to make him smart. So not a gold star in disability representation at that moment, but you'll see a little bit later on that there is kind of a sweet kind of moment between the two a little bit later, but not great, right? That's not how disability works. But that's what he tells Ozzy, is that they're going to get him an operation to make him smart. Because then Ozzy is like, well, am I not smart? And he says, well, you're smart in your own way, but we want to make you smart like other people. And so then they kind of go off. So they hide the gold in the well. So now they're out in the yard, and you can see that for some inexplicable reason, they're painting the house, but they're painting the house like bright electric blue with red shutters. It's some 4th of July Uncle Sam nightmare that I don't understand. And when you go into the house, these bright primary colors, like the kitchen is blue and red and yellow, but then covered in grime. It's very strange. So they are all painting. And so Tori goes over to the truck and she's trying to get something out. And the leprechaun starts rubbing her leg. And she, for some reason, thinks that it's Nathan. And then she like looks behind her and Nathan is there. And so she screams and the leprechaun like scratches her and leaves these 3 big bloody scratches. Like not little scratches, like big like bear scratches. And they blame it on a cat. They see a stray cat, and they're like, oh, it must just be that cat. Oh, because the cat was molesting your leg and then gave you 3 big gouges. I mean, people in horror movies are often not very bright, but these people are really taking the cake with not being very bright. So all of this, nobody's believing anything, but then somehow I think her dad is JD, and he gets bitten by the leprechaun. So now they've got to take him into the hospital, and at this point they establish that the painter guys, their truck is kind of sketchy, and the distributor cap comes loose or something. And so Alex always has to run up front and fix it. That's going to come back later. And so they're going to take him into the hospital. I don't know how far this farm is from the hospital, but it is inexplicably dark as the middle of the night by the time they arrive. So it was daytime. They drive a few miles to the hospital, and it is immediately pitch black darkness. So Alex and Ozzy go to this pawn shop to have them look at the gold coin and get it appraised and figure out like how much it might be worth, how much all of the coins together might be worth. And so they take it in and have him look at it. Now, obviously the leprechaun is going to come kill that guy. They take her dad to the hospital, and then they're going to meet at a diner. I don't know, somehow they weren't at the pawn shop very long, but they're like, we got to hurry, we got to get back. They're going to be wondering about us. And then, but they're at a hospital. Nobody's ever gone to a hospital, and it's taken like 5 minutes. But somehow they still beat them to the diner. So Tori and Nathan are there, and they're talking, and then the others join them. The pawn shop owner gets killed, and that's kind of funny because then the leprechaun ends up with a bunch of toys. And this is one of the more inventive kills. And so when this guy gets killed, I thought, well, maybe they're going to do clever, fun, interesting kills every time. But they didn't really do that. So he gets killed with a pogo stick where the leprechaun like pogos him to death. And then he steals a little remote controlled car and a bunch of other like toys and stuff and drives it off. It's really bizarre and very strange. And after he kills the shop owner, he then polishes his shoes. This shoe thing is such a weird... It's going to be used a little bit later, so it kind of gives them a way to achieve a goal that they want to achieve. But this whole obsession with shoes does not make sense to me. I don't know if that's part of leprechaun lore, that they're like cobblers or whatever, because they didn't make it sound like all leprechauns are cobblers. They made it sound like this particular leprechaun was a shoemaker. So I don't know if there are leprechaun dentists. I don't know if there are leprechaun influencers that are selling you things on Instagram. I don't know how it all breaks down. They don't really explain leprechaun society, but this is what's happening. So while everyone is eating at the famous Saugus Diner, I'll have to look it up. I'll Google it and see if Saugus, North Dakota is a thing, or if they just used whatever diner sign was already there. The leprechaun is riding his little remote control car home, and apparently he's driving it fast enough that he gets pulled over by a cop who thinks that he's a child, and then he claws the cop's face, and they go on this whole big chase, and he chases him through the woods, because there are also woods. Another thing that is not really known in North Dakota are lots of trees. Our trees tend to grow in rows because they were planted there to keep the soil from blowing away. So the accurate read on North Dakota, not really happening in this film. So at one point, there's more of this city mouse, country mouse flirting between Tori and Nathan. The leprechaun is running around the farm looking for his gold and finds a box of Lucky Clover's cereal. I was like, oh. And he tries to eat it and then spits it out because he apparently didn't think it was very good. But an interesting little homage. I mean, clearly they couldn't actually afford to get actual Lucky Charms to put into the movie, so they did Lucky Clovers. So there's all these kinds of shenanigans, but we need to get rid of this leprechaun, right? So how are we going to do it? Once they finally figure out that there really is a leprechaun, then they're like, oh, we have to figure out how to kill it. So he must have been put in that crate by somebody. I bet it was Dan O'Grady. Well, guess what? Dan O'Grady didn't die. So that whole thing where he's like clutching his heart, apparently he had a stroke. Apparently they didn't bother to look up the fact that symptoms of a stroke and symptoms of a heart attack are entirely different. And so he had a stroke and he's still alive. He's at this rest home. So they go to find him. And so he had survived all this time and has just been in this nursing home. Well, now the leprechaun has come to find him, and he ends up half dead on top of the elevator and falls through the little hole at the top. but he's alive long enough to tell Jennifer Aniston that she needs a 4-leaf clover and that you can find it in the clover patch next to the well. My brother in Christ, when I tell you that the clover patch next to the well is about a 6-foot circumference circle next to the well that glows electric green in the dark. So they're searching through and they're trying to find a 4-leaf clover. That's going to be the thing. And the leprechaun keeps attacking them. So eventually they figure out, okay, it is a leprechaun. Everybody realizes that Ozzy was right. Nobody apologizes to him, which I think is a choice. Because he was clearly right. He knew that it was a leprechaun the whole way. And then these like slapstick fights ensue where Ozzy is fighting with the leprechaun and Alex is attacking the leprechaun. And Nathan gets stuck in a bear trap. And it's like, how did the bear trap get there? But they're like, maybe it just was there. Maybe a bear put it there. Maybe it's a bear trap from a bear. Who knows? Like, it's just kind of wild how they're thinking through this. I mean, I know that in a realistic world, the idea that you're being chased by a leprechaun is one of those wild things you wouldn't believe. So it's all weird hijinks. Also, bears not super plentiful in North Dakota either. I don't know what's happening. I don't know where they got all this North Dakota information, but apparently they just thought it sounded exotic and fun and where a leprechaun might hide out. So while Nathan is limping around, he's been caught in this bear trap and he's got a gun or whatever, and they see the leprechaun and he shoots the leprechaun and it flies back into this bush. And then he just randomly, without being able to see the leprechaun, just starts shooting the bush. And then they go to look for it and they're like, where'd he go? He's not here. And he's like, I put 6 rounds in that thing. No, my dude, you didn't. You put 1 round in that thing and then shot a bush with a shotgun. I don't know a lot about guns, but that shotgun shot like 6 shots in a row without like visible reloading. That doesn't seem like how shotguns work. I don't understand what's happening. But he apparently thinks he put 6 rounds in it, and the leprechaun is nowhere to be found. So there's a lot of kind of slapsticky fighting. It's a little bit wild. At one point, he's chasing them when they go into the house, and his hand gets caught in the door, and they're able to push it enough to cut off his hand, but then his hand like crawls up and opens the door to let the leprechaun in, and then he just reattaches it. It's very campy. It's very wild. And so eventually they figure out that they need to hit him with this 4-leaf clover. And I'm not going to spoil the whole ending for you. Obviously, they triumph over the leprechaun, but it was short-lived because obviously there's Leprechaun 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Leprechaun goes to space in number 4. We're going to talk about all that. So basically, as they're running around, finally Alex confesses that they took the gold, that they found the gold in the old car, and that they took it and they hid it in the well. So they're like, just tell the leprechaun he'll go away, give him back his gold, and so they tell the leprechaun that it's in the well. Well, astute viewers, as you remember from earlier in this video, one of the coins is not in the well because Ozzy swallowed it. Now, if this were a fun, gory horror movie, we would know that we were leading up to Ozzy getting his guts ripped out so that they could find the coin. But that's not going to happen. Instead, we have this kind of sweet moment where Alex, when he confesses that he has the gold, he tells them that he told Ozzy that they were going to use it to get him an operation to make him smart. And they tell him, well, you know that that's not real, right? You know that that can't happen. And he says, yes, I know that, but Ozzy doesn't. And so he does it to like make his brother feel better because he feels sometimes kind of picked on and left out. And so it is kind of this sweet moment. It's a little bit weird. It's maybe a little bit sketchy in terms of how they talk about disability, but it does lead to this sweet moment where he clearly does love his brother, even though he's kind of been giving him a hard time throughout the whole movie and kind of like yelling at him and stuff and trying to get him to behave the way he wants him to behave. They still have this sweet moment. So I appreciate that. But we're not going to get a coin ripped out. Instead, we're going to keep fighting the leprechaun, and eventually they do manage to get him trapped in the well. They somehow like slingshot a 4-leaf clover into his mouth, and he falls into the well. So that's where he is. That's where he'll stay. I mean, at some point somebody says, it's over. And it's like, well, that's famous last words. So you know that's not true. But he's down there. And then, of course, there's a little, like, precursor, like slashers and those things always do, that kind of hints that, oh, someday I'll figure out how to get out. And then I'll get back to getting me gold. And that's how it ends. So to end it all, they end up pouring gasoline down the well, and then somehow they, like, throw a match or something, and the well, like, explodes. I don't think that's really how it works. I think the gasoline would just sit on top of the water and it would burn off, but they had to have this big fun explosion. Now, all of a sudden, the way that day turned to night earlier, now night turns to day. And the well is still inexplicably on fire, and 3 cop cars just randomly show up. So they had tried to get a hold of the cops earlier, but the Leprechaun, like, he's the one who took the call. Like, he had the dead cop in the car, and he takes the radio message, and so they never get called. And Jennifer Aniston tries to call him from her portable and isn't able to get through. And at one point, like, they're trying to use the landline, and then, like, the Leprechaun's hand comes out kind of like Freddy's tongue from the original Nightmare on Elm Street. There's a lot of homages and references to other horror films throughout this, so that was kind of fun, but it's a little bit cheesy. So overall, my thoughts on Leprechaun are that it's really kind of fun in a campy way if you don't expect a lot. So in terms of the kills, except for the pogo stick kill, there isn't a lot there that's really inventive, that's really kind of a showpiece kill. You know, a lot of horror films have those kills that are, like, super, like, they're just showpieces, right? If you think about the beginning of Ghost Ship, if you think about Tatum from Scream in the garage door, those kind of, like, really, like, iconic kills, the pogo stick is as close as they get to that. Now, if you want to see my favorite kills from a variety of horror films, including Ghost Ship, then check out this video right here. But I think that it's campy and it's fun without expecting a lot. Now, they worked really hard to keep the entire main cast alive. So Nathan gets caught in a bear trap, Ozzy gets his face clawed, and I think he might get bitten or something. So they have some injuries, but none of the main cast dies. That's clearly done to, like, set up a sequel. Oh, but I'm so sorry if you think any of those people were going to come back for a sequel. I think Ozzy and Alex might show up in the sequel. I'm not really sure, but certainly Jennifer Aniston, she was going to start cashing those Friends checks, and she was going to be gone the fuck out of North Dakota, never to return. Now, if you want to continue the torture, there are several more Leprechaun movies. In 1994, they followed up with Leprechaun 2, Electric Boogaloo. I don't know. I don't know if it had a subtitle, but Leprechaun 2 came out the next year. That one is set in California. In 1995, they put out Leprechaun 3, which moved the setting to Vegas, a perfect place for gold coins, all of that. Now, Leprechaun 4 is where we went to space. So Leprechaun 4 was in 1996. That was 2 years after Jason X. So obviously they were like, slasher villains, send them to space. That worked so well for Jason X. Why don't we try it? It's a choice. Then in 2000 and 2003, we have Leprechaun 5 and 6, which are Leprechaun in the Hood and Back to the Hood. Because that's where you find a lot of Irish people. In the Hood. In 2014, they decided to revisit the series and they launched a prequel, Leprechaun Origins. It looks much slicker. It's got that kind of muted sort of look that the remake of Texas Chainsaw Massacre has. Like, it's almost like it's got kind of a dusty sort of look to it. I'm kind of interested, but my friend Brooklyn tells me it's pretty terrible. So maybe we'll do a video. Let me know down in the comments below if you'd like to see a video on Leprechaun Origins. And in 2018, we got Leprechaun Returns. So that one I know has Ozzy in it, and Warwick Davis had retired from the role, so it's now played by somebody named Hornswoggle, which is apparently a wrestler who is also a little person. Very excited about that. So Brooklyn tells me that that movie is much better. I think it's meant to kind of retcon a lot of the previous Leprechaun stuff. I think that's supposed to be the direct sequel to Leprechaun. They're doing that now with, you know, like Halloween. They did that with Halloween 2018, where they kind of retconned everything except the very first movie. So I may check that out. We may do another video. Who knows? Maybe next St. Patrick's Day we'll come back to the Clover Patch and have a whole discussion. But those are the other movies that are available if you'd like to watch them. So overall, my thoughts are, this is bad. This is a bad movie, but in a good way. It's campy, it's fun, it's what I want from a horror movie. I wanted a few more kills. I wanted a little bit more blood. I wanted a little bit more gore. I wanted some fun, especially when the leprechaun like steals all those toys and stuff. I thought we were going to get some real like showpiece kills. We didn't get any of that, but it is fun. It's campy. It's an interesting take on kind of a slasher film, and you know, it's set in North Dakota, so what's not to love about the setting where allegedly North Dakota has mountains and trees and tarantulas, and yeah, that's how I feel about that. Too much. So as I mentioned, they did keep all of the main characters alive, obviously trying to set up a sequel, but at least they brought in a fair number of side characters. They did bring in some people to get killed off so that we still got some kills. We still got some of the surprises, the jump scares, the horror. So I think that's fun. I mean, it's too bad. Jennifer Aniston in an interview said that she thought that Leprechaun might like ruin her entire career, and she sort of feared it for years. But luckily then Friends became such a phenomenon that people kind of forgot that she was in that movie. Except me. I never forget anything.
Girl, you forget everything.
Deleted old. But what a wasted setup to have Ozzy swallow that coin. That's the one thing with this movie. I can be like, oh, it's campy, it's fun, it's a little cheesy, it's whatever. The one thing I can't forgive is that they gave us that perfect setup and then didn't follow through on it. I wanted something to happen where that coin comes out in a really gross, gory kind of way. I don't know what's happening. Apparently, we just fade to black and he drinks a lot of Dulcolax and then ends up with a gold coin. I don't know why. I don't know why we didn't pay that off. But otherwise, it's just kind of campy, good fun. And I think that this is also emblematic of the sort of troubled place that slashers were in 1993. Now, this is 3 years before Scream would breathe life into that subgenre. It's, you know, we've really kind of sequeled into oblivion. At that point, we've had Jason Takes Manhattan, which was really terrible and really just kind of ignored the whole conventions of the Friday the 13th series. And Jason, like, takes a cruise to Manhattan because why not? You know, things were Freddy's Dead. That movie was pretty terrible. There's just a lot of things where they don't know what to do with it. They don't know how to mold it and keep it going. And so Leprechaun was like, let's not take ourselves too seriously. Let's create a different kind of horror villain. Let's use a lot of the tropes. Let's have a lot of Easter eggs. Let's have a lot of references to other movies. And let's just have fun with it. It's a way to kind of just be a part of this subgenre that's kind of gasping for breath and putting out a movie that doesn't take itself seriously, that's just there to have fun. It became one of the staples of the subgenre. It really was just a movie that was a lot of fun. It was recognizing that it was in a subgenre that wasn't at the peak of its popularity, wasn't at the peak of quality. So it's like, let's go for quantity over quality and have fun. And that's what I love. So, Jerry, I hope you appreciated this look at Leprechaun. You'll have to let me know what I got wrong. I cut out a lot of the plot. I had written out a whole script of, like, the whole movie. And then I was like, oh my God, I can't do this. I can't keep sitting here talking about this. It was too much. So, I hope you enjoyed it. I hope this did service to your favorite horror movie. I love that you love it. It's not going to reach the top of any of my lists anytime soon. But it was fun to revisit it and see a young Jennifer Aniston just chew up the scenery. All right, that is the end of the video. Let me know in the comments below what you thought. Have you watched the Leprechaun movie? Have you watched any of the Leprechaun movies? Have you watched that prequel? Is it worth me giving it a chance? Is it something that I should check out? Should I check out the direct sequel that came out most recently? Let me know all of your thoughts down in the comments. While you are down there, don't forget to give me that thumbs up to tell me that you appreciated the video. Or if your name is Jerry and you think that I just committed sacrilege against your favorite movie, go ahead and give me that thumbs down. It is all engagement. The algorithm isn't a picky bitch. And neither am I. And while you're down there, don't forget to hit that subscribe button, become part of the fam, and hit the bell icon so you'll be notified of all future uploads. I try really hard to make sure I have at least one video a week, and I try to spread it out among glam, geek, and gore, so there's a little bit of something for everyone. And you know what? If you're lucky, you might even get a bonus video? Ooh. Top of the morning to you, Tastic! If you'd like to chat, banter, or commiserate between uploads, all of my social media will be linked down in the description box below, including a link to my website, The World of Champagne, at janessaj.com. Thank you so much for watching. I love and appreciate all of you. I love Jaye and Truck Stop. Go check them out. Check out Brooklyn. She is one of my favorite photographers in the world. Check out Grandpa's Pool House. It's a fantastic vacation destination. So many of my favorite things, all mentioned in one video. And until I see you again, bye. And they had... What? Me? And of course, faster, take it out.
Oh, it's gross if you touch it.
So while everybody is eating at the...
Your necklace has worked its way up a little bit,
Oh,
so
okay.
it's angled.
That's fine.
Okay. Don't yell at me. When it's not visible.
We'll have no continuity in this video at all. So what was I saying? I forgot what it was. And I think that this is also emblematic of the sort of troubled place.
Sorry.
And because of that, it kind of became one of the staples of the subgenre. I think that it...
sorry.
So Alex says that they hide the gold in the wishing well. I don't know why I called it a wishing well. What? That's the leprechaun who bites JD. Who is JD? Oh. I think that's her dad. Is about a 6-inch circle. No. Is about a 6-foot radius. Blah. One thing that I think this movie did really well that was trying to set up a sequel... Nope, we're going to talk about the sequel later. Sorry.
Hospital was the same one used in Halloween 3, Season of the Witch.
Oh yeah, I totally fucked up this script.